What's up, everybody? So I'm almost $200,000 in debt, and I'm gonna pay it off and make it manageable by May 2027. And I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna do it step by step. I'm gonna go through where I'm gonna get the income from, where the debt came from, the schedule that I have to get it paid off, and what strategies and tactics that I'm gonna use in order to get this debt manageable so I can have more freedom financially to do the things that I like to do, travel, do stuff with my car, just ultimate freedom is the goal. So we're going to go over that over the next several minutes. This isn't going to be like the most polished video. This is just me documenting the experience. This is something that I'm going to do. So, that $200,000, or I'll show you the exact figures going forward here, that is going to become manageable. And it's manageable right now, but long term at this rate, it's just going to, like, I'll just have a fat credit card, personal loan debt just weighing me down and making it harder for me to do stuff. I like to travel. I was in Lima, in Buenos Aires, and like working on my Spanish this past summer, and I want to be able to do more of that. So I did fund that a lot with credit, and I think using credit can be very good and useful as long as you're responsible with it. Not everybody has access to credit, so I think using it in a responsible way is can be a good thing, but you can't get lost in the sauce like I almost did. I don't think I ever was lost, but the balance that I have right now is not ideal. So let's get into the video. Let's get into how I'm going to manage this and knock this debt out. We're calling this the Debt Blitz. So I'm blitzing this debt down. It's just a sacrifice of my weekends. For the most part, I could still go out, but really I'm going to be dedicating a lot of time during my weekends to get some extra income. And yeah, let's get into let's get into the video. All right, so let's break down the debt. The biggest chunk that I'm going to be dealing with is the $145,000 of student loan debts that I have. I was in school for a long time. I'm 28 years old right now, and I'm still in college. I'm like getting another bachelor's degree. Most of that $145,000 came from master's degrees. So I got 3 masters, which doesn't make a lot of sense for most people. It made sense for me, and we can go into more detail in another video. This video is not about why I got 3 master's degrees, but I did end up paying for 2 of those. One of them was subsidized by the university because I had a graduate assistantship, and you can get free master's degrees if you work for the university. But I paid for 2 of those and an undergrad degree, and I had a strategy where I was borrowing the maximum of student loans and using the disbursements that they gave me to trade on the stock market. And I didn't get the wins that I wanted to get, but I learned some valuable lessons. I ended up with the $145,000 of student loan debt, which is actually the most manageable of the debt that I have right now because I have a long-term plan. As I said, I'm a teacher, so we get loan forgiveness after 10 years, so that'll be manageable. That's going to be the last thing that we look at as far as the Debt Blitz plan. The next part, and the part that I'm going to prioritize immediately, that we've already jumped into action and we're already paying down, is the credit card debt. So I'm sitting around $33,000 of credit card debt right now. I'll pop some of those figures up on the screen, and that comes from a variety of spending. I moved into a new apartment, so I was buying a furniture. It's really started when I went back to Brazil, or when I went to Brazil in 2022, the summer of 2022 or 2023, and I was trying to hit a credit card sign-up bonus, and I ended up subsidizing the trip with credit card, and I ended up with a $6,000 bill or something. And up to that point, I was using credit cards reliably, spending no more than I had in my checking account, paying everything off at the end of the month. The things that I want to preach, I was doing all the right things, getting sign-up bonuses and churning, and I want to talk more about that stuff. in more videos, but I kind of got lost in the sauce in Brazil and hit that sign up bonus, but I also came back with a fat bill that I still have. So I still have that that credit card bill, and I haven't taken care of it yet. So that's going to be the first one. So I believe it's one of my Amex business credit cards, but that's going to be the first one that goes down because it's my biggest balance. It's around $8,000 right now, and that's going to be the first thing. So those high credit or those high interest credit card debts are going to be the first thing that I attack. Student loans will be the last thing, again, because I don't have to pay student loans right now because I'm enrolled in Arizona State University online through my Uber partnership. But again, we'll get to the Uber stuff and the college stuff a little bit later. The last part of my credit, or rather my debt load, is going to be personal loans. So if I were to ride out my personal loans to maturity, so if I were to pay every payment, including the interest, I think the longest personal loan that I have right now is about 5 years out. It'll be finished in 2030 or 2029. If I ride those out, I'll be paying about $49,000 in interest and the principal. So like total, about $49,000 if I ride those all the way out. But I'm going to pay those down early before May 2027 during this debt blitz. So I'll probably end up paying around $30,000 in total instead of that full $50,000 because I'll be attacking that principal before interest can accrue on it, and I'll be saving a lot of money down the line. So I'm going to be trying to get onto these balances quick, fast, so they're not gaining interest and limiting my freedom and how I feel whenever I'm trying to maneuver and make things happen financially. I want more freedom. So I'm going to attack these balances systematically, strategically, and when we come back in May 2024, or not 2024, May 2027, these things are going to be gone. So how am I going to pay down this debt? Well, I have two main sources of income. I have my job, my career. I'm a teacher in a high school. So after, and this is all public information, so it's not like I'm telling you like anything super secretive, and like I'm going to be transparent with you just because I think that's the best way to build trust with you guys and to build trust with myself and to show that this is where I was, and we'll be able to look back at this in a couple years and smile at it and enjoy how far we've come. But I make about $4,200 a month after taxes and insurance and all those other fees that they take out of my paycheck. So that is going to be mostly my living expenses and hitting the minimum payments of my credit cards. That's what it's been. So I've been traveling. I was abroad all last summer, and I've been able to live and be comfortable hitting the minimum payments over the past maybe year or so, and that $4,000 per month is helping me do that, paying the rent, taking care of at least the minimum, being able to stay alive, stay afloat. What's really going to push me over, and the most important component of this debt blitz, is going to be my Uber income. So I've been driving Uber for about 5 years, mostly on weekends. As a teacher, I work during the week, so those weekends are going to be key. I'm going to be aiming to drive between 15 and 20 hours every weekend. My baseline goal is $250 per weekend, which is like not very hard to do. It's driving a few hours Friday night after school. Saturday's my heavy day. Get up 4 or 5 in the morning. Drive until 2 or 3, 4 p.m. until I get tired, and then do the morning on Sunday and make a $250. So it's not a hard thing for me. I like to drive, and I really want to pay this debt off. So that's just going to be something that I do. I can't promise myself that I'm going to drive every weekend. It will be most weekends, but there will be times when I'm traveling, seeing family, or whatever, wedding, who knows, and I can't get that, but I'll try to make at least $250, and weekends that are longer, go towards $300-$400 in a weekend, in order to subsidize those weekends where I won't be driving. But at that rate, I'll be able to pay about $1,750 on my credit cards per month. So I'll pop up the debt payment schedule that I generated with the help of ChatGPT. I've been doing a lot of ideating with ChatGPT just to get help on how I should approach this and what the numbers are going to look like. So this takes into account how much money that I can throw at the debt. Also takes into account the interest that will be growing as I'm paying down the debt, and gives me an end date of May 2027. It's going to be so sweet. It's going to be so sweet. That May 2027, summer 27, I can smell foreign lands and new experiences and freedom. I can smell all of it. So I'm just going to have to eat shit right now and sacrifice in the short term in order to experience all the things that I want to experience. So that's the schedule. And if you notice, there are a couple key points, disbursements, student loan disbursements that you'll see. I don't know if my fingers were lined up there or not, but there are a couple big hits, big moves that I'm going to be making, mainly in the fall and spring of 2026, 2027. And I'm going to be taking student loan disbursements, and I'll do a whole video on this, but I get almost $6,000 of a disbursement for student loans for Arizona State through Uber, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to throw it at my debt. So I'm turning that toxic 30% credit card debt into long-term, smaller interest, 5 or 6% interest, long-term debt, which is going to make it more manageable for me. And that debt's going to get forgiven because I'm a teacher, so I will have to make monthly payments on it. It's a 10-year window for public service loan forgiveness, but that is going to open up a lot of freedom for me because I don't have to start paying on my student loans until after I graduate. And Uber pays for a free 135 credits at Arizona State online. You have to do 2,000 rides, which is a grind. It'll take a few years, I would say, to get 2,000 rides unless you're really grinding it out. But it'll take a while to get those 2,000 rides, but I put the time in, and I have to maintain my gold status with Uber, which is, I can do that in a couple weekends, but I'll be driving every weekend. So that's an automatic. So I just have to maintain my status, and I'll be able to stay enrolled, and I'm not going to have to really worry about making payments on my student loans until after the Debt Blitz is over, and then we'll start making those public service loan forgiveness payments and start the clock on those 10 years for forgiveness on the big chunk of my almost $200,000 of debt. So based on the calculations that I've done so far with the new repayment plan that's income based, I'll probably be paying between $500 and $600 per month after the Debt Blitz. But I borrowed a lot of money from the federal government for student loans. I've used it to my advantage. So $600 per month. I own my cars, so I'm not paying a fat car payment note, and that's just the cost of doing business. You want to go to Brazil and go to South America, Lima and Colombia and Buenos Aires, and you want to live comfortably in your 20s like I have, just like taking advantage of credit, there's a cost. So I'll be eating that $600 a month for 10 years, but whatever, I'll be making more money than that, and it's going to be offset, and the experiences were worth it. So those will be my big plays with the student loans and Uber, and that's what we're looking at on that end. So again, the game plan is going to be to throw every bit of extra income that I have at the high interest debt. Credit cards are going down first. After the credit cards are gone, I'm going to be going after those personal loans so they don't accrue interest over time. I think the big one was the $18,000 personal loan that I took out was like 20 or 30% interest, and I wanted to make a play. It's like weed stocks or cannabis stocks, or like kind of my nest. I have a nest egg of cannabis stocks right now, and I wanted to make a shorter term play, but I ended up taking a loss on it because I needed to liquidate to pay bills. So I ended up borrowing 18,000, probably losing most of it, and it was a pretty high interest play. So that is going to be the one that goes down first after the credit cards, and then we'll knock out those two other smaller personal loans, and then we'll shift into a season of like a long season of those payments on my student loans, which will be about $600 a month, manageable compared to how much money that I'll be making and I can make. So, again, cost to do business. So again, I want to document this process. It's something that I'm going to follow through with, bar any like catastrophic incidents, but it's something I'm going to follow through with. So I'm going to be documenting the things that I do right, the things that I do wrong, any miscalculations that I make or will make, and I just want you guys to be along for the ride to show you that it's possible with planning and effort to dig yourself out of a hole. Even if you're in a hole and it feels like you can't get out, there's enough resources out there to where you can make it happen. And I want more financial freedom. I don't want to be tied to my teaching job. I do like teaching and giving back, and that's part of why I'm doing this, because throughout the process we'll be able to talk more about credit and how it can be dangerous, but also how it can be advantageous, and other strategies that I'm using to make this thing manageable, because it's going to be manageable. And May 2027, we're going to be able to come back and just look at this and use it as an example. So thanks for sticking around. This is going to be a long process. It's not a get rich quick video. I'm not trying to inspire you to try to make $1 billion this year. I just want to show that with resilience and with grit and with consistency that you can dig yourself out of a hole. And would I like to have this paid off this year? Yes, but it's not going to happen. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but I know 100% that if I follow the schedule and I follow the plan that I have laid out, that it will get paid off, because I did the math. I know I can show up and I know I can get the work done. So that's better than a get rich quick scheme, in my opinion. So if you want to follow the channel, you'll be able to keep track of the progress and also get some tips on how to get the most out of credit cards and student loans if you're interested in being able to leverage those. And I know, coming from the guy with $200,000 of debt, you're like, why am I going to go to this guy for credit advice? And maybe you shouldn't, but I've been able to live comfortably, maybe not the most comfortable, but I live a good life, and I'm happy about the decisions that I've made. And I'm going to dig myself out of this hole. You guys can watch with me, and we'll just go forward. So again, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.